4,
Now,
3,
you're on live.
2,
Yes.
1.
Hello, everybody. I told him he could do the intro, but maybe that wasn't a great idea.
Happy New Year.
Happy soon-to-be New Year. Happy New Year in Australia.
That is right. Already started in Australia.
There was a little controversy there.
What's
You
the
have to look at the
controversy?
people.
Was it the? Well, I'm looking at you because I'm
No,
talking
you have
to
to
you.
look at them because we're talking to them. It was the fire ban. So they have
Oh,
many
that's
fires
right. You
going
said
on in
that this morning.
Australia.
It's about the.
And they went ahead and did the fireworks. But like Mario and I pointed out, when you've already paid for the fireworks and you have it set up.
Yeah, because you got guys. There's people getting employed to do all of that. You
Yeah.
gotta let them do their thing.
Well, you could have done part of it. But I get it.
And
They
it's,
thought
it's
that
just a giant island. You could set it off. It's like doing it over a lake. Safety.
It was. It was near the bridge. Yeah, I'm not sure why I started with that, but Happy New Year already in Australia and Happy New Year soon to be for someone else. I haven't looked at the time zones. But we will not be up tonight, probably. We will probably be in
we'll
bed.
fall asleep.
So we're
We don't
already
stay
saying
up that
Happy
late.
New Year. So we thought we would come and talk about some things that happened, like our Feast of the Seven Fishes, and then maybe some things we're looking forward to into the new year as far as cooking goes.
Yeah, we had a lot of fun doing our Feast of the Seven Fishes. It's our annual kind of event. We invite a family over, try to invite somebody different each year to share that with us. This year we had a lot of fun with our friends Pam and Bob
And
their two sons. So they came over. We had a really, really filling meal with lots of different dishes. So what
Do we
was
want to
your...
talk about Feast of the Seven Fishes?
We do.
No, do we want to talk about it? Not
Yeah.
everybody knows what it is. So Feast of the Seven Fishes is normally held on Christmas Eve. It has become an Italian-American tradition, and it does date back to, I forget which town in Italy, but I think southern Italy, where it dates back. Anyway, it is common here in the U.S. with Italian-American families.
And we started doing
So
it with
that's
our
me.
family. That's right, 98% Irish.
That's
But
right.
we're 100% Italian in my book.
That's right. So we started doing it because we wanted to have our own tradition, and we like to cook.
Yeah.
So that gave us the creativity to kind of do what we want. I love fish. I grew up in Chicago on a lot of lake fish. So I love actually all types of fish. I don't know if there's any fish I don't like. I don't like sushi. I know. I lived in Japan and I don't like sushi. But if it's cooked, at least mildly,
We're all over it.
I will eat it. So we thought it would be fun, and then each year we invite a new family, and that's really nice for us because while it may be a familiar dish for us, it's not familiar to them.
Yeah. And you can see some of the videos on some of the dishes we made are on the YouTube channel. So we started off with a couple of standard appetizers we do every year now.
Well,
Calamari.
our goal, hold on, I'm going to stop you just for a second. So our goal is to make it enjoyable and kind of progressive.
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of dishes. So when you say like Feast of the Seven Fishes, we have like 8+ fishes that we kind of, get in there. But we don't want to kill people with food. And we don't like the idea of Thanksgiving where you just dump it all on the table. We like to put a
Spread it
dish
out.
down, enjoy it. And so that helps us in the planning process because we usually start off with the fried fish first.
Yes.
Right? Anything fried we usually start off with first. Because it usually takes Mario outside. It takes a little bit longer. We want the oil heated up to the right temperature and then be able to turn everything off. So you have to think about your menu if you're going to do something like this.
Yeah, a lot of it gets into the planning, right? So
Yeah.
the stage is in, and then it's all timed out right. And that's the other part that we like and we kind of enjoy is getting the orchestration, if you will, of putting everything together so that it comes out at the right time, and so that we're not just stuck in the kitchen.
Right.
But we actually get to spend time with the people that we've invited, right?
Right.
So that because it's not just about just cooking a meal, it's about sharing it with another family, with another couple to really share that part of what we're doing. So,
And if we're stressed, they're not going to have a good time. And if we're in the
Yeah.
kitchen and not at the table, but the more planning you do, the more preparation. So you have to think about that so that your dishes will come out, as easy as possible. So that should be in part of your planning process, and that's usually what we do.
Yeah. So we try to focus. So this year,
So now you can tell them.
now we can do it. So
Now you can tell them.
we start off with the deep fryer, doing appetizers.
Yeah.
We start off with a calamari and
Yum.
a fish cake. And
Okay, so let's talk about the calamari.
my calamari doesn't have a very heavy batter. It's a very light batter. I use Wonder flour and some cornmeal, and really just the wetness from the squid. So after I've cleaned it, make sure there's no cartilage inside the tubes. Make sure
And
there's no
this year we got
beaks.
the tentacles.
Yeah.
Which is unusual.
Yeah, the local grocery store we generally go to.
Central Market.
Central Market. It's an
Plug.
HEB company.
It is.
The
Don't say it. He's got a joke. He's
Howard-
he's not allowed to say it.
Howard E. Butts is the guy who
Yes.
started the HEB. But there for a while, when we first started, I guess we've been doing this meal for 8 years now.
Something like that.
8 or 9 years. And
Yeah.
so early on when we first started, you get tentacles. Sometimes you'd even get whole squid with the beak still in it.
Right.
So there's a lot more cleaning. And inside the squid tube, there's a piece of cartilage. You had to make sure you really clean everything out. Now it's almost always clean. There for a while, a couple of years, they weren't even carrying tentacles.
Right.
Because
They told us only the tubes.
only the tube. So
Which is
this
fine.
year we got a few tentacles, got plenty of tubes, and because it was 8 people going to be eating and all fully grown, there were no little kids. We knew it was going to go pretty quick. So
Well,
got
and
2
we really
pounds.
like the calamari, and so I told him to get extra, because I
Yeah.
didn't want to not be without calamari to eat. I don't like to fight for my food, so I like there to be plenty, and we divided it up on the table so that everybody got an opportunity to try some.
Yeah, and I've tried different batters, with whether tempura or a little more wet batter, so you get a lot more batter around the rings once everything's cleaned and cut. And when you go to any other restaurants, 9 times out of 10, they're much a lot more crispy.
Yeah.
Because they have a lot more batter on it. I don't like that. I really like the squid itself. So with the Wonder flour and the cornmeal, you get a little crisp, you get a little batter, but it's all squid. So it really comes out. You really get to enjoy that, and it's 45 seconds and 375 oil, and they come out golden,
Because
crispy.
the thing with calamari is just like
Yeah.
octopus, right?
Yeah, any of those encephalopods, you got to cook it really quickly, or you got to cook the crap out of it because otherwise it turns out like rubber. So,
Right. So the fact that he just drops it into the deep fryer and really cooks it long enough for it to kind of brown up, it's just perfect.
And they
it's
cook
very tender.
because it's a very light batter. It's just it's very thin. It cooks up so quickly.
Where did you get
comes
the
out
idea for the
tender.
Wonder flour? Who gave you that one? Was
You
that
did.
your Mario?
You did that.
Did I?
You saw it on Mario Batali. I think he
Amazing,
brought it out in some show you
amazing.
watched. But
Yeah, that works really well. Sometimes we have to remember where we buy it. You can't buy it everywhere, but it comes in a can, not a can.
or a box, but it's
Like an
super
oatmeal
fine.
type
Yeah, it's a super
thing,
fine
or two.
flour, so it's
Yeah.
But it works out great. It gives a really nice coating and crisp up just right. So
And then we did serve it with marinara, but I had also bought an ungodly amount of remoulade from Central Market. Clearly did not understand how I was ordering it, but it's super yummy.
yeah,
So we had
the
that to offer,
remoulade,
which
but
is
the
really
remoulade
good.
we've always been using and it was really kind of an accident, I guess, almost
Accident.
9 years ago. We make a fish cake, and you've heard of crab cakes, and it's lots of crab, and you find recipes all over. Well, this one day, it was really one night, Claire, because she was working nights and tired, and I think this was going to be her night off, so many, many years ago. And so she's resting, the boys are tired, it's my turn to cook, and I like to clean things out of the fridge, and so what do we have left over? I've had a bunch of fish sticks, and there was some tilapia in the fridge, and cans of tuna and salmon, and I just said, well, if we can make a crab cake out of a bunch of stuff, why can't you make a fish cake? And that's where our fish cakes came out of, and they
There you go.
are...
Hey, Tammy.
Hey, Tammy, they're amazing. They've come out to be everybody loves them.
And we try not to tell people ahead of time what's in them, because I think people would be like, really? I mean, that's what you put in them? They're amazing. Because I find crab cakes to be, I don't know, just too much. These are a nice blend of all the different fishes. It gives really good texture. Again, he puts, what do you put on the breading?
The breading I add, again, a little bit of Wonder Flour, not so much cornmeal, but mostly panko. So panko and egg.
Okay. I get it, Tammy. Isn't that horrible when you start to hear and you can't eat, or you gotta... So poor Tammy's at work. That's hard. Don't watch the commercials on TV, Tammy.
That's right. But so these cakes, generally I do in a 2x2 square, about an inch thick, and then rolled in egg and panko, so it really holds together.
Oh, right. You're not ratting you out.
Nobody knows. No, it's a
Nobody
complete
knows.
secret.
We're not at work.
But so rolling it in panko and then rolling it in egg and in panko again really builds a nice crust. And because all the fish in it is either out of a can or has already been cooked, everything's cooked inside of it. You're really just bringing it up to temperature and getting a nice crust.
And it really holds itself together. And you make them ahead of time, and then you refrigerate them. Hey, Lynn.
Hi, Len.
You refrigerate them, and that makes a big difference, because then they hold together real well.
Yeah,
so
they
before
set.
you do the square, we have a square
Like a cookie mold.
Cookie mold, yeah. But then he cuts them like in half. It's a much better size because they're pretty deep. They're almost like an inch deep. Aren't
Yeah,
they?
they're about an inch thick, but now it turns into a triangle.
They're great.
But
perfect size.
And the egg, if you use egg like in an egg wash, but when you use egg whenever you're doing it in a dredge, it really enhances that golden color when it's deep frying. So they come out golden brown, really beautiful, crispy. And of course, every time we take something out of the deep fryer, hit it with a little bit of salt so that it sticks. And then I had the boys bring it inside, and everybody really enjoyed it. It was phenomenal. The fish cakes, again, are also another video on the YouTube channel.
Yeah, really important. Anytime you're deep frying something, hit it with a little bit of salt afterwards. It will really help with the taste. So we start off with those because of the deep fryer. And then when we're done with that, then he can unplug the deep fryer, and we don't even have to worry about that anymore.
So do that outside because
really nice.
it can smell, right?
Yeah.
Because it's a pretty strong odor. But it's outside, and that way it's out of the way. It's
yes,
not tripping over anything. And then come inside. Now we can sit down, and we shared and got to talk a little bit and have a glass of wine. And then we moved on. Once then, if everybody, and then you have to watch out because people started eating multiple fish cakes, and like, slow down. There's more coming.
You do have to tell people. So we had a bunch of friends over for dinner. We were really excited, and we brought in two things. We did the two deep fry things. So we did some tempura first, and we tempura'd shrimp and
sweet potato.
Which, if it sounds strange, it's not. In Japan, they serve squash all the time. It's super yummy. And then after that, we did our turducken balls. So it was like a Thanksgiving meal in a deep fried ball. So gravy, mashed potatoes, turducken meat.
So
what else did I miss?
So we started with gravy in the middle.
Yes.
Now this was a separate meal, but we did gravy in the middle. I froze little rounds of gravy in little round ice cube trays. Wrap that in.
Did you do sausage?
Stuffing.
Oh,
then
stuffing.
Wrapped it in turducken sausage. Then wrapped it in mashed potatoes, and then rolled that in panko and egg, so it really had a good crust.
And you had to do that twice. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah.
You had to do it twice.
If you don't roll something like mashed potatoes, the one I didn't get rolled really well in the dredge, and basically it just disintegrated all the mashed potatoes. So if you're making that Scotch egg type of ball, and these came out with all the mashed potatoes completely rolled, about the size of a softball, not that big,
Yeah, about
a small
that big.
softball.
Yeah.
But super good.
So anyway, we bring out these two dishes, and one of our friends says, "Thank you so much. That was really good."
Yeah.
And I said, "Oh, you've never eaten with us before." That's just the start. And they were all like, what? We would have worn our elastic pants if we knew. We had so much more food by the end. I think these poor people just wanted to leave the house. They were so full. So it is really important when you're having a dinner like this and it's a big dinner, do explain to everybody, since you don't put everything on the table at one time, pace yourself.
Yeah.
So we want lots of food because we don't want people to feel like they have to, fight for food. But people also need to know there's plenty of food coming out, so just try one and then move on.
Yeah.
So okay, so do we want to say what didn't work? Because I think that was next, wasn't it?
So the next thing was we made a cioppino.
Right.
And so if you've ever had a cioppino or you've made a fish stew, this cioppino is a San Francisco tomato-based fish stew.
Mm-hmm.
Really phenomenal. Mussels, clams.
It's very light. It's not super heavy on the tomato.
Yeah.
I mean, there's tomato, but it's not very heavy. It's very brothy.
Yeah, and ours came out with a nice spice. I thought it was really flavorful. And then what was nice is we had done, again, planning these things out. We started the soup early in the morning, got the base going, and that was one also that because we were going to put squid in it, I have to put the squid in at the beginning, and it cooked for almost an hour and a half. It was super tender, but we didn't add any of the other fish until about a half an hour. About a half an hour before we were going to eat the soup, we started bringing it back up to temperature, and then really in the last 10 minutes before it's time to serve. So when we brought in all of the calamari and the fish cakes to eat, that's when I dropped in the mussels. I dropped in the clams first and some cod, and then maybe 5 minutes before we served, I threw in the mussels, and everything opened up because it had plenty. They don't take a long time. Mm-hmm. Little neck clams take a longer time to open up than mussels. Mussels just open up right away almost.
Yeah. But you're missing the beginning part of the cioppino story.
What was that?
The bags of heads.
Oh, that's right. So this year, this was great. So this year, generally, you can do with like most soups, right? You have some kind of stock base. Well, to really make a great cioppino, right? Starting with a fish stock is really something you want to try and do. And you can buy fish stock, that's okay. But we thought, you know what, this year, because we had another dish in mind we were going to do, is going to need fish stock also. So, well, let's try and make fish stock.
Right.
So we went to our local grocery store and asked for some fish heads. And that's a different story. We could talk about that. But H-E-B hooked us up with some fish heads.
Two big bags.
Two
so
big
we only
bags
really needed one.
of red snapper fish heads.
Right.
Interesting enough, so when they cut those things off, they're just going to go into the trash because they're full. They're cutting off the fillets to sell the fillets, so they don't take out the gills. So we got the fish heads, we got them home, and we're going to make fish stock. We did that the night before, but there's still gills in it. So I had to take all of the gills out because of all the stuff that's connected to it. When you buy a whole fish, you'll notice there are no gills. Not only have they taken all the insides, they've taken the gills out as well. So you have to clean that out.
Okay, I'm going to get medical for just a second. It's the bloodline. And if you have the bloodline in your stock, it'll make it really nasty.
Yeah.
So anything that looks like it had a blood source to it, something like that, it's got to get pulled out. Well, these snapper have some serious teeth on them. I mean, they were not an easy fish for Mario. And I think you did a video on it, didn't you?
I think I did a video on the fish stock.
We had some pictures. I had sent pictures, of the heads like sitting in the water. But you really do have to clean them well. So that's one downfall. If you're not into that kind of thing, then just buy your fish stock. But it was fun for us.
And the great thing is, and we did the first batch with one bag of fish heads. So I think there were 6 heads. And these are red snappers. So the heads were huge. But we got 4 or 5 gallons of fish stock when we're done. So we had an enormous amount, which was really great. I was able to actually froze a bunch of it. I put it in ice cube trays, put it in some mini loaf pans and froze those and then vacuum sealed them. So I've got an enormous amount of fish stock. I don't have to get fish heads for a while.
Right, because really, if you're going to have a big dinner and you're going to cook, you may as well just cook a ton. And then if you have leftovers that you can freeze, go ahead and freeze that. So anyway, we did the cioppino, and that was really good. And again, we don't serve a ton. You get a little bowl of it because, again, there's a lot of little meals, so you need to keep that in mind. The other thing that I do the day before is I always set out all of the dishes, the serving dishes, and I also count up how many dishes that we're going to use. So we have the right dish for the right meal. And so then that way, when it comes to cooking, we don't even have to think about it. You know, I actually use little index cards and I put it on there and I say, that's what this is for, that's what this is for. So if one of the boys should help him or somebody else jumps in,
yeah, it makes it very easy.
You can just clearly see. And then we have all the serving spoons ready because it's the last thing you need on a day when you're doing a lot of cooking. Again, you don't want your guests to think that, you know, you're frantic. So get all your stuff organized. That's really, really important. Talk about the whole process, how long you think everything's going to take. So again, you know, you choose your dishes. So we did the cioppino. Oh, we served it
with a clam bread. So we found a recipe, and this is think of it like a garlic bread, but yes, Claire found the recipe. But basically it's a garlic bread with an enormous amount of chopped clams on top of it. It was so good.
Butter.
Yes, you make a compound butter. Compound butter of chopped clams, Parmesan cheese, butter, obviously, parsley, salt and pepper, and you take the clam juice that you've reserved from the can of clams and reduce that down to really intensify the flavor. Mix that all in and put it on a nice bread. And,
Cousin's watching. Hey, Alan.
Hey, cuz. So put that all on the bread and put that in the oven so it toasts up nicely and all that butter melts in and the clams and the cheese gets all toasty. That with the cioppino, molto bene.
So good. So you, again, want to use a bread that it's going to be wide enough. You don't want it like too skinny. But you want it to be able to hold and soak up all that butter. Yeah. It's really good. And maybe you're not into clams that much. You could use less if you wanted to, just to kind of flavor the butter. This one likes clams, so it was loaded with clams. Really and good. It was really good after.
Yeah, it was phenomenal the next day. It was phenomenal cold, but it was really, really good.
Yeah, so that was another one. Then our next dish was the mussels with...
Well, we attempted beforehand a dish called quenelles.
Again, when I found this one.
Yeah, that was a difficult one. And so we tried those. That was a fail, so that didn't get served. But we'll definitely try that probably sometime.
But the smart thing is that we had a feeling it was going to be a difficult one. It's where you take the 2 spoons and you... Is that the word for it?
I don't know what that...
Anyway, you take the 2 spoons. Maybe Alan knows. Alan, do you know? You take the 2 spoons like you do in a dessert, a little fancy dessert, and you make the like eggshell little shape to it. And that's what you do with these. And they're basically like... This sounds gross, but I bet it's really good. It sounds really good to me. Is a fish dumpling. And then it floats in a creamy, in a creamy kind of fish sauce. So you can do like a lobster sauce, like a bisque type thing. So it'd be really yummy. But the key is to get that quenelle thing super light and airy. And so Mario had a feeling it was going to be a tough one since we'd never done it before. So he did it early in the day because it did say that you could keep it like on a buttered dish and then warm them in the cream sauce. So Mario attempted it.
Yeah, I attempted it early. It was a fail. Yeah. So those didn't get served.
But it was good because we weren't doing it while the guests were sitting here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we were able to try it out and just kind of put everything off to the side and get that cleaned up.
Yeah.
So quenelles were a fail. That's okay. Right. We'll try those again. And then we moved on. After we cleaned up, we did mussels with linguine. So I have a really big pan that we can do a lot of mussels. And I use shallots and butter and garlic and white wine and really make a really nice white wine sauce to go with that.
Super yummy.
And again, throwing the clams in first. The clams this year, I must not have let them cook enough, but most of them opened. So a few didn't. And then the mussels right at the end, and then toss all in the pasta. So all of the butter really coats it, all the garlic and all the juices that come out of the clams and the mussels. It was really, really tasty.
Yeah, now I know you're supposed to use the wine that you would drink. I don't drink white wine. So we used 2 buck chuck. And it worked really well.
Yeah.
It was very, very good. And I'm going to say that if you're going to do this, make sure that you have lots of butter, lots of wine, lots of broth to go in it, because there's nothing better than it just swimming in all of this juice. And then if you have any clam bread or regular bread, we did have plain bread, you know, you can dip it in there. It's so good, and it's really outstanding the next day.
Well, and remember, the pasta will soak up a lot of it. But what we found out is making a lot of sauce allows for you to not only serve the pasta, but then actually pour all of that sauce out of the pan. I put it into a little gravy boat so that then people could still pour more on, or pour a little on the side of their dish, and keep on using it. So it really works out well.
Yeah, and the key there is to watch your pasta. So I used to probably cook the heck out of my pasta before I met this one. So al dente is really, really important, because really by the time everybody gets their bowls and sits down, you really don't want to have soggy pasta. That's really, really important. So practice with that.
Taking it out early, almost before it's al dente, because it finishes in that big pan of clams and mussels and the sauce that's in there. It will finish cooking very quickly. So.
Yeah, but that's a super tasty one. We have that every year because we really like it. We usually have leftovers, so we usually like that. And then this year, I didn't realize that one of our guests, the young man, really liked mussels. I thought mussels might be difficult sell. So we went ahead and got some shrimp and put that also in a garlic wine butter sauce, and had that on the side. So if people wanted to add shrimp to their dish, then they could add that in.
Yeah, it's just a quick little thing. But
so that's nice. Like if you're not sure if somebody's going to like a dish, maybe offer a smaller little option for those people, because you want people to have something that they can eat. And we did ask if there was any, allergies or things that somebody didn't like, and they said everything was a go. So that's important, because otherwise, you're spending your money and your time, and if nobody's going to eat it, you just need to go with another option.
Yeah.
Because then it's not fun. Okay, then we move on to the whole fish.
So the last part was the whole fish, and so we did two different ones. One, we do a bronzino. I baked those. We got 4 bronzino. They're Mediterranean sea bass, really nice, very forgiving, really a
nice sized fish. They're probably only 1.5 pounds, 2 pounds maybe.
Yeah, they make a really great fillet.
I'm probably,
Yeah.
It's a good sized fish, and probably in my family, if you were just serving it, it would be 1 per person. But after such a large meal, it's probably 2 people.
Yeah,
maybe 2.5 to a fish.
We did 1 fillet per person, so 1/2.
Yeah.
Right. So out of the 4 fish, everybody got 1 fillet.
Right.
And because they're probably that tall, which is 2.5 to 3 inches, from stem to stern, and then the
this is stem to stern, but that's okay.
Top to bottom. Shoulder to tail, hip to joint. I don't know what you want to call it, but not overly big, so it's a nice size fillet, especially as the kind of final course of a
and pretty
big
easy
meal.
To get in a good price.
Yeah, and very versatile, very very easy to do, and we really just a simple salt and pepper, lemon and parsley on the inside, and then lemons on the top, and I scored them. So, and then bake them in the oven. It's about 20 minutes.
Now, did you wind up baking them uncovered, or did you do the parchment?
I baked them uncovered, and they came out great. And then
because that's another option. You can make the little parchment pouch. Like if you can do it on the grill, you can also do it in the oven. And so you can put some other things in there, and then you roll the parchment down, so you make like a little hotel for them, and then you put it in there, and then it steams. And then you kind of get more juices on the bottom.
Yeah.
Right?
I didn't do that this time.
And it's probably a little bit safer. If it's your first time doing a fish, that's how I would suggest it. Because I think that, but you do have to watch it. Steam is very hot. So it will steam in there. So just watch it. But I think that's a pretty easy way to probably bake the fish in the oven, is to do that.
But there's a fair amount of oil in the bronzino. So you don't have to add a whole lot. But very easy, very simple to cook, and they'll come out almost perfect every time, because they're very forgiving.
Yeah, it really
fish.
doesn't require a lot. It is a flaky white fish, so it really does not require a lot of seasoning inside it. If you wanted to do something after, maybe a sauce, right?
Mm-hmm.
Something to go with it. Or like he did a compound butter. So a compound butter is any butter that you've softened and put flavoring in, and then you make it cold again. So you could actually take a butter if you wanted to do something special with that, and then bring it out, and you could actually slice it, and then you could put it on top of the fish after it's done cooking, and that would add a little flavor to it.
Yeah.
But it is a delicate fish. It doesn't require a lot, and that's usually why we serve it at the end, because it's almost like people can't take anymore. Like if you serve something heavy at the end, you would lose them.
Well, and for one last thing to go along with it, is because we try to do something new, right, each year. Well, the quenelles were new,
Yes.
right? We said that was a fail. But the
Yeah.
second thing that we did new was a striped bass, or was it a black bass?
The recipe called for a black, but I think it was, well,
think
a
we got
black
a-
striped bass. It was a striped bass.
We got a striped bass.
Yeah, a
And
little
this-
bit bigger than the Bronzino, but not too huge.
Right, and then so with that one, I actually fried it in a pan, but because it was a lot more oily, and to create a almost a vinaigrette. So with the oil off of the fish, and I forget what else I put into it.
The black olives.
That's right. So
There wasn't much. It is a recipe. It's only got a few ingredients.
yeah.
I forget what else.
So it's black
there was. I should have
olives,
looked it up. I'm sorry.
a little bit of
I can
garlic,
post it.
but we
Have it here
basically
somewhere.
adding
Yeah.
a few of those things into the pan, and again I use a really big pan and cook the fish right there on it. Flipped it over once, and so in about the time it took for the Bronzino to bake in the oven, was able to cook this black bass whole on the stovetop and generate this vinaigrette. So we served everything all at once, and then that gives us kind of that nice big presentation. So we have got a couple of dishes that are really large, and the bass on it. It was falling apart. It was really good.
It was very good, very tasty. It wasn't too overpowering again. I'll have to post the ingredients. It was very, very simple. And again, the other thing to take into account is these fishes were so easy for anybody who maybe was watching their diet too.
Yeah.
Not the fried food. But, keep that in mind, that there's some things like the cioppino is really good. It really didn't have a lot of fat in it. It had the fish. As long as you make sure you're inviting fish people to your meal. But these things were very light and very good, and not super heavy. So make sure that you're balancing that. Some of the heavier dishes with definitely the lighter dishes. And then we had asked our guests. So then that was it.
And everybody was full. Everybody
Super
had a really
full.
nice time. I think it really worked
Nobody
out.
even wanted coffee. I had some later, but nobody even wanted. Nobody wanted to drink or eat anything else. Our friends were very gracious and brought a lovely dessert. But again, we were all
I think
about
everybody was stuffed. I don't think we got
Yes.
anybody got to the desserts.
And we had done it over a couple hours.
Mm-hmm.
An hour and a half, 2 hours, something like that. It was very, very nice and long, and we just look forward to every year, throwing in a couple new dishes. We try not to completely throw everything out and do everything new. That's just too much. You should have some comfort in what you're making. So definitely choose dishes that you're okay with. That's what you could also do with Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving, everyone expects certain things, right? Okay, that's fine. But then you could throw in an extra dish. Who's really going to care? They're either going to eat it or
Right.
they're not. But it's a great opportunity to try a new appetizer or try a new dish. But again, don't make them all new dishes. Just pick one or two new things. And it makes it fun and adventurous. And then, of course, if it doesn't work out, like it didn't work out with the quenelles for us, then that's okay.
Then it's a wash, and it's not a loss.
Because really this year, I think if we had the quenelles, these people might have, really, it might have just been too much.
Yeah.
It really was a lot of food.
Yeah, we had really filled everybody up.
Yeah. So that was our Feast of the Seven Fishes. So I think it's really fun to start a tradition.
Yeah, I've really enjoyed it. And then, since recently, last year, Claire got me one of those food savers. So there was leftover cioppino. So I actually took out the big chunks of fish and anything that was left in it and kept all of the broth. Mm-hmm. And again, I froze that and vacuum sealed it. So in smaller sections. So if I want to have, soup one day, and I feel like maybe I can just go get a half a pound or a pound of mussels, and maybe when Claire's out.
That's right.
I'll have a pound of
But
muscles
it's
all to
nice.
myself.
You're using like the silicone loaf pan,
Yeah,
right?
I use this silicone loaf pan that
Which
has
was
four
not
small
easy to
loaves.
find, by the way. Bed
Yeah.
Bath & Beyond, we did find it. They have it in new funky colors. We were kind of looking for like something silver, but it's not. It's in a silicone. It was like blue or something. Ask, they do have them. But they're like, small 4 loaf pans, mini loaf. It really is the perfect size for probably 1, maybe 2 people, depending on how much you add to the soup. But it's a nice little broth size to freeze for. And we did that with the lasagna before that I froze. We do have a video on that. And that is just perfect because it's just the right size. So one day, one of the boys was really hungry. I said, well, I have lasagna in there. Okay. So we pulled it out. He was willing to wait because we had to, bake it. But it's perfect. You have a kid at home and you can't get home right away. Go in the freezer, get this, pop it in the oven. I mean, kids can do that.
Yeah.
So it's really nice. And really nice to be able to save because you put all the work into the fish stock and making things. And yeah, really important. Okay, so you save it, you got to remember to eat it.
That's true.
So make sure you are constantly going to your freezer to see what you can eat instead of going to the grocery store.
Absolutely.
So we have a million other things we can talk about, but Mario said let's keep it just to the Feast of the Seven Fishes because clearly we can talk a lot about that. So that's what we're going to do. But I thought maybe we could talk about this new year that we're going into and maybe if there's any food things.
Well, so this year, obviously, I'm sure a lot of you probably get to go to Christmas parties. I was invited to a business Christmas party from some business folks that I know, and they took us to a restaurant in Dallas, a guy named John Tessar and his restaurant, and this is his cookbook. It was amazing.
I didn't get to go.
She didn't get to go, but
I
she
was
got
in
to go to
Chicago.
Chicago. So.
So while I'm in Chicago, he's getting invited to all these parties.
But there's a lot of really neat things in here that he talks about and how he sources his beef and his meat. And so
there was like 12 people at this dinner. It was a.
But I guess the point is, and there's, when I get cookbooks or watch other people's videos or chef videos, I try to learn a different technique. I try to learn something different and then try to apply that. Not just with what they do in that particular recipe, but can I apply that to something else? Mm-hmm. So we're going to try something different, try different techniques and try different options. I've been talking about it for a while, but I want to get a goat. I want to try and put that on the smoker.
When am I going to Chicago again?
I've grown up with cabrito, in the little towns that I grew up in, and it's one of my favorites. So I'd really like to do that. But also lamb. I've never really cooked lamb on my own, so we're gonna try those. We're gonna try, improving butchering skills, all of those kinds of things. So.
Yeah. My son was so sweet. He got me a cookbook for Christmas. Isn't that sweet?
That's right.
And the great thing about cookbooks that I love is I may not follow it exactly, but it does spark ideas of different flavor combinations. Some different ingredients to use. So I really, really like that. So in this new year, my goal really is to stick to a better plan. To come up with a plan for the week and really try and make dishes and stick with it because I have boys that are 17 and 20.
Yeah.
And that just happened recently.
It's the end of the world.
And they're hungry. I mean, they're really hungry all the time. And so it's hard because you make food and then they're either going to eat it or they're not. And so that's the tricky part. You don't want to invest too much, but you do need to have stuff there for them because then otherwise, like the other night, my son orders Domino's. So
at least he paid for it himself.
He did. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but just not all the time. They really need to know because then they're going to go off and they need to know that it's important to eat from home and to have the vegetables and have the fruit and have really, really good food available to them. And also, they're busy. They need to be able to function. And if they're not functioning on good food, they're not doing well. And they don't correlate that. They're too young to really correlate the fact that their diet is crappy and they're feeling crappy. So it really is up to us. And if it is there, most of the time, the boys will eat it. And it's funny, if I say to them, hey, do you want me to make this for you? I don't know. But if I say, hey, I made this, then they're going to eat it.
Yeah.
And so you just don't ask them. You really just make it. And then you're going to find through this process the things that they love to eat. And I'm telling you, my boys I have a dish that will bring them from all corners of the house when I make it. And it's so nice. And they just love it. Like, they can smell it. They're like, oh my gosh, Mom's cooking. And they come down here and they just inhale it. And that's really nice because, having boys, you got to get them to come to you, back to you somehow. And food really is the way to do it. So, and it just makes them feel really loved and taken care of. So this is the year really for all of us to stick to making really good food in our home. It's so much better for you. Mario and I went out and we went to a happy hour, and once you start cooking at home, it gets harder and harder to eat out. Yeah. It's really bad. Like, these people messed up hummus.
Yeah, and I don't know how you can mess up hummus, but...
I mean, you can, but, like, it was so salty. It was really bad. They made an edamame one that looked like mint ice cream.
Yeah. Didn't even want to try that one. No. Was not pleasant looking.
The fire one was not fire.
Their pimento cheese wasn't too bad.
It wasn't too bad. But literally, they served it like tiny. Like the tiniest little ramekin you can think of. Like this. Between serving. The two of us. Like, we couldn't even hold it at the same time. Yeah, it was quite silly. But we had a nice beer and then we came home. So the key here is save your money. Cook at home. Not only will you learn a lot, but you'll be able to take care of your family, and what you do at home will pass on to your children.
Yeah, experiment. Experiment with technique, experiment with foods.
And don't make it complicated at the beginning, really. And stick to what you like. So if you get a recipe and there's a bunch of 10, 15 ingredients, pare it down. Just go with, what tastes good to you.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So... there we go. Feast of the Seven Fishes. You posted the videos already?
There are 5 videos on the YouTube channel, all in a playlist. So take a look at that. Enjoy. Please comment. Subscribe over there. Subscribe here.
Yeah. Sadly, we forgot to take a lot of pictures. We always forget. We just start eating at the Feast of the Seven Fishes, and we really need a photographer for that. But it's very enjoyable.
We'll have to outsource that part.
And people who come, they just really enjoy it, I think. So it's a lot of fun. It's a great tradition. And Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Australia already, and everybody else. And
as it's coming across the continent.
To all those who will stay up tonight. Not us. Happy New Year.
See you tomorrow.
Happy 2020.
Bye everybody.